the weekend itself for you, it was cool. Like I said, it's the best start, certainly in the last couple of years that you've done there at Phillip Island. And the Yamahas themselves, I mean, they really performed. I mean, at the end of the day, the progressive scores and tally shows Yamaha second, third, and fourth. So only behind Josh Waters there. But anyway, three races. Josh cleaned up on all three of them. I think that was a little bit, from all my understanding was he crashed, broke a collarbone or something last year. So it was a bit of a surprise, the fact that he could actually perform like that. But then in second and third, you battled with Ant West all weekend. I mean, amazing, So he's definitely stepped up his game, but so have you too, So and Yamaha, obviously. What's your take on the weekend, from your perspective, running in the Yamaha race team?
Yeah, look, a big step forward for me this weekend. Like I said, it's a weekend that you go into it uncertain, as to where you might end up finishing, and it's a little bit worrying from a points point of view to start the championship there. So to come away from it in second place, with an 18-point deficit to Waters, was actually a really, really solid result, I think. So that's given me a lot of confidence for the start of the year. I honestly really feel like getting that result there is a big tick of the box. I think that we're starting really well, and it's like just mentally is a big challenge, to come away from there with that result. It's like just psychologically, I know that now the championship's on. You know what I mean? Like when you start there, like I think last year I came out of there like nearly 30 points behind, and you just know that it's going to be a hard old year. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, starting like that's really great. As for the races, like I feel like I made, as a team, we made a step forward with the bike, and then also a little bit with my riding. I worked with Steve Brogy over the weekend again. He's back this year doing some coaching and stuff, so he'll be at most of the rounds, which is super, super important having him there. And we worked on some things early on in the weekend, which really, really helped. And as always, we try to tweak the bike as the weekend goes on, and I feel like the team did a great job with improving it. We're at the point now where everything is only small little refinements, but we found some little things that helped us. So yeah, from my side, it felt like more or less we reached our potential for the weekend. For sure, Ant was going incredible as well. So the races were really, really tight, but it was so interesting because our strategies towards races were different. Based on my experience, what I learnt from last year, where I tried to go really, really hard. I tried to race the Ducatis at the start. One of the races there, I burnt my tire out so much that I dropped back to like I think 12th or somewhere around there. So I wasn't going to try that I wasn't going to try that again. So I tried the opposite. I started off nice and ginger and gentle and tried to look after the tire as much as I could. Was a little bit slower at the start, but as the race progressed, it's sort of about half race distance, I started to feel really good, and it seemed to really help for the tire life from then onwards. So I felt like I had a really good bike under me, had a lot of confidence with it, and I sort of pushed forward as the race went on. But Westy did the opposite. He tried to do like what I had been doing last year, where he tried to go and race with Josh and try to challenge him a little bit. But it seemed to, like I said, just hurt the tire too much. And by as the race went on, those last sort of anywhere from 1 to 3 laps, we sort of end up meeting up with each other in those last few laps of the race, and it was just a really, really tight battle to see who would get it. So
Yeah.
Westy beat me in the first race, but it was like I think in all 3 races it was less than a tenth of a second. So
I saw the times. It was 0.03. You were 17:05.03, and he was 17:05.047. So we're talking, you know, 17 hundredths.
yeah, is nothing.
Well, not even that. No, 17 thousandths
Yeah, yeah.
second in the first race. And in the second race, it was, what is it? Holy Jesus. Like we're talking. That was half a tenth,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
In the
It's really
final,
tight.
yeah, and the final race was 0.398 to 0.436. So we're talking 0.038,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
38 thousandths of a second. That's ridiculous.
yeah, yeah. Really tight. So, like I said, all those races were less than a tenth of a second, which, yeah, I mean, you can't click your fingers that quick. You know what I mean? Like that's how close it was. So, but that's the difference
We even
between
commented about that.
second and third.
Yeah, it is. He commented about that. He said, he made his play like at the wrong time, and then it just created an opening for you. And man, when it's that close, just a little bit of, what's the word? Slipstreaming, and that is going to make a difference.
Yeah, and that track, like those once you come in those last couple of turns and onto the straight, like if you can get the draft right, then get the slipstream right, then get the correct run out of the last turn, get the right draft, it can make a big difference. But yeah, fortunately, I suppose for me, I felt really strong in the last sector. It's one of the being honestly, it's been one of my weaknesses at that circuit. I can always be really competitive in the first three sectors. Sometimes I can top the sector, through 1 to 3. But once we get to sector 4, which is basically MG,
The
and then
onwards.
yeah, turn 11, 12, and I'm down the main straight. I always have suffered there,
Yeah.
and so that was one of the things. Like I said, over the weekend, working with Steve. Tried to work on what I was doing in those turns and made a big difference. So I actually topped the last sector multiple times throughout the weekend. So that's super critical because when you come into a last lap battle with somebody like that, if you're no good in the last sector, well, you're going to get past. So I was really lucky that I was able to make some progress there, make sure I was really strong in those last few turns, and yeah, like it was a bugger all, but managed to just hang in there.
I think people realize that last sector, I mean, when you go through out of 10, because 10's a pretty slow corner,
Yeah.
comparatively to the rest of the track. And then by the time you get, you between 11 and 12, you're doing well over 200 kilometers an hour. So it's a super high speed run from turn 11 onwards.
Yeah, when you're building speed, aren't you? All the way from like 'cause you stop, more or less stopped in the middle by the time you get to the middle of MG, part of the break back to either first or second gear, and you're very slow, and then it's just like on the throttle nearly the whole way from there all the way till you arrive at full gas on the main straight. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a big wind up, but yeah, you go from the slowest one. Well, I think we
So
have to be the slowest part of the track to nearly one of the fastest parts of the track.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Um, the overall results were you got a third and then 2 seconds, and then Ant West got the opposite of that, a second and 2/3, and Josh won all three races. I do have a question for you. What do you think's changed with? Because I kind of looked into this to try and find what the difference was with Ant West. And he said, no, we didn't make a lot of changes in that, but I'm going, the results don't show that. What do you reckon they're doing differently?
Well, I think I with these bikes, there's been an update to the rear shock absorber. There, which hasn't sort of really been available like to teams here in Australia, like through the normal channels, I'd say, until now. But some teams, including his, have been able to get a hold of these new shocks, which is the latest shock that they're using in World Superbike. And they've been able to get a hold of that. I think I don't know if it was can't remember now if it was last year or the end of 2023. I don't know exactly. But anyway, they've had this shock, and I really think that that's been making a big difference for them. They've been able to they sort of had about a year on it, developing it, and that seems to be making a big difference. I think. I don't know. I don't know what else. I mean,
Yeah.
because otherwise between our bikes, between all the Yamahas, they're nearly all the same. You know what I mean? Like there's not a lot you can do. You know, within our rules. So. That's been the only thing that stands out to me would probably just be that component was something that was different between our bikes that they had a bit of time to work on, and they seem to get it working really really well, obviously. So that's made them a fair bit stronger, and I think for Westy too, probably just maybe just psychologically, like he's had some continuity with that team, and he's building some confidence up. The package is sort of staying the same. So, and probably the people that he's working around with, and that just gives you confidence in itself, because you're not chopping and changing things and having to readapt or anything like that. So,
Yeah.
um, you might not sort of realize that it's happening, but I think that's probably part of it as well. So, yeah, and like he just I think I honestly, like, he started going quite well there. Must have been the race that we did towards the end of last year. We did a standalone event, and I think there might have been something happened, made a red flag or whatever, so we didn't actually get to see how he went for the full race distance. But he was making a bit of progress forwards during that race, and I remember it quite clearly, because I was thinking, I was been watching the races back, and I was, analysing it all, and in my analysis, I was like, wow, okay, he's getting quite strong. So it wasn't a surprise to me that he was as strong as what he was this weekend, because I felt like I'd seen him start to make a fair bit of progress throughout last year. And like I said, I think that probably has a bit to do with the shock and where they went with that. So,
Yeah. He's been
yeah,
racing. He's been racing too. Like he won a big event. I think they ride New Zealand as well, if my memory serves me correctly.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, just ride time. I think
yeah.
do a fair bit of riding and a fair bit of racing. He's got a little built up a little kart track, I think, on his farm. So he's probably out there riding fairly frequently. So yeah, just seat time in general is probably helping too.
Yeah, I've got to shout out to Mark and the team at Addicted to Track, because it's a privateer team.
Yeah.
They've done an amazing job, and I know how much effort Mark's put into the putting that together, and they got Steph in there helping out with the coaching, and yeah, it's a pretty good solid team for an independent team.
100%, 100%. Yeah, they're doing a fantastic job, and that's where see the results there. Like, that great weekend, good. They should be stoked on how, how it all panned out.
I reckon. Um, the now you've got a new teammate this year.
Yeah, on board with Max Stouffer this year. So had a change. So Crew Hallidays moved to the Stop and Seal Yamaha team.
Mhm.
He had been my teammate for the last few years, and honestly, he'd been in the Yamaha Racing Team and involved with Yamaha for 10 years or more now, I'd say. So he's moved away from the official team, and so Max has come in. So he had some good results last year, and showed some good progression. Like,
Yeah.
he's been on. He stepped up to Superbike in 2022, I think it was. So he's had a few years now to sort of develop and progress and adapt and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think just where that team was at that he rode with last year, like, I think it was so the team was finishing up. So I think natural sort of progression was to be able to get him into the official Yamaha team. And so, yeah, look, over the weekend, it's been exciting to do our first race together.
And he got fourth too overall.
Yeah, pretty solid result, really. Like, I mean, I know that he wanted more, and that you always want more. You know what I mean? Unless you're winning, you probably pretty much always want more. But honestly, yeah, for a first round, he got through it, come away with fourth. So I think that it was a really solid weekend for him.
Well, he jumped off. He's come off a different bike too. I think he rode Honda last year or something, didn't he? And
No, he's on Yamaha. It's just the Penrite sponsorship. It always tricks people up, because it used to be Penrite Honda, and then the Honda team finished up, so the Penrite sponsorship went to to the Yamaha team, to that Yamaha team. So yeah, so it always tricks you up, because you think.
I never questioned it.
Yeah, yeah, no. So he's been on Yamaha, but there was a few differences. They were running. The suspension was different, so a different brand of suspension. He's come across to the official team with Holland, who was on a different brand last year, and I think the electronics as well. So he's running, I think, Motec on the bike last year, and now he's on YEC, which is what we use on these bikes. And probably just a few small things. I think he mentioned, like, just the foot pegs and the handlebars and a few little things that just make the bike feel a bit different. So, whilst it's still a Yamaha, yeah, he's trying to just sort of, feel it out and adapt to it a little bit as well. But yeah, look, to get through the first round, come out of the first race weekend for his first time on the team in fourth place. A pretty solid effort, I reckon.
Real solid.
Yeah,
Especially when you look at the three people in front. I mean, it's no mean feat. And the people behind him, he's got some fast riders behind him. Cam Duncan,
yeah, for sure.
you
Yeah,
know, and Glenn Allerton they were fighting out in the front, second and third at one point, or third and fourth, or whatever,
yeah.
because they were in front of you guys at one point.
Yeah, like Glenn had a really strong, especially that last race. He was going really quite well. So yeah, he is up there a bit further. Yeah, I think like Max got a little bit lucky in the sense that some of those riders that were going well. So I think Glenn might have had a DNF in
Mm.
that last race. Actually, he had a problem with the bike. And I think Brock had a DNF as well. He had a crash in that last race. Who else was there? I don't know. Oh, Cam Dunker. Cam Dunker had a DNF. He had a crash in the first race. So yeah, a few of the guys around him, but that's racing. Like Max was just solid, like at his speed and stayed consistent over the weekend and paid dividends at the end. So
Yeah.
that's the way it goes. Yeah.
Do you like it looks like you're really on your game this year. There's a different feel about, even now in the conversation, maybe that's come from the results of the weekend. Did you change your preparation, in the off season leading up to this, or it was basically the same as you had been?
Pretty much all the same prep, really. I just know, I suppose, in my mind, like the points. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. You just like I said to you, like when I finished up after round one last year, and you're so far behind, it's like nothing's ever impossible, but it's going to take a lot. Like doesn't matter how much you do at your best, it's going to take a bit of luck as well. You know what I mean? So I think that coming out of this weekend, I'm a bit closer. I know that Phillip Island's the hardest place to get points at for me. So to come away with where we're at, just mentally, like I said, I just feel like I can just sniff the little bit that's there. You know what I mean? We've only just started, and it's going to be a big year. But I know I know what I can do on the bike. I know. Like I said, there's not too much has changed with our bike, so I know it very well. Our team's great. I feel like it's never ending improvement as such. Like I said, we continue refining the motorbike. I continue refining myself as a rider, so
Yeah.
I feel like things will just get better as the year goes on. And just with another season under your belt, like you just learn, you gain experience. That's all it is. You come into a season with another lot of experience under your belt. So I feel like mentally, like I'm in a good place from an experience point of view, a maturity point of view. You've got to balance that raw speed. I think I've got enough of the raw speed. That's not so much the issue, but you've got to manage that so that you get the best result you can over the weekend. And like I said, I see that there's room for improvement
Yeah.
in my riding, and I know what it is that I want to do, and I believe that if I do it, I'll get the result that I want. So that's where you get confidence from, because if you're behind, or if there's something that you need to do to improve on, and you don't know how to do it, well then you lose confidence, because you're like, well, I don't know what to do. The other guys are just better than me, or I'm too slow, or whatever it is, and you don't know how to find a way to go faster. Well, then you have a problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you've got the problem that in front of you, and you know the answer to it, and you know what you need to do, well then you're like, all right, let's go. We can go and do it. So,
You're getting well. There's wisdom there too. It's showing strategy you're choosing. You didn't go out and just blow your tires.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
Because just that holding back a little bit. That you know it's going to be difficult for anyone, when that red fog, comes down. I think that's what they refer to it as.
Yeah.
The less experienced riders just go out and smash it. That's what most people do, but it's very
Yeah,
cool.
and I think, like, naturally in our races, they're essentially sprint races, because they're only 20 minutes long. They're just the way that it is because of our rules. We have a limited fuel supply. We only run the standard fuel tank, so they can only be the race distance can only be the maximum of the fuel capacity. So that this makes it essentially a sprint race. So really, everyone just starts and goes full gas from the start to the end. You know what I mean? And it's kind of how the races go normally. But yeah, once there's some circuits, and particularly Phillip Island, where that you just can't actually do that, and you do need to think about it a little bit more, and it's hard because when you know that you're not riding at your maximum and you're seeing the other riders, ride away from you and creating a gap, you get scared because you're like, I don't know if I can actually bring that back. You know what I mean? As the race goes on, but you just gotta know. You just gotta have that confidence that it's going to turn around at some point, which it did. Half race distance has sort of really started to change, and then you've got to have the confidence to know that you can still execute the plan as the race goes on. So yeah, it's just a different mindset, I suppose. But that's not at all tracks. Like I said, that's Phillip Island definitely. Any of those sort of tracks where the bitumen's relatively new, it seems to be more abrasive on the tyres. So you have to think about that sort of more so. Yeah. Whereas say Sydney, for example, or Queensland Raceway, places like that, where the bitumen doesn't seem to have an issue so much on tyre life, well, then it is really just get out and just go as hard as you can, right?
Well, you won. That's right. It's exactly what you did last year.
Yeah.
There's good examples of that, that whole being patient and not getting sucked in MotoGP. There's been, and Phillip Island, I remember there was a year where Martin ran a soft tyre or something.
Yeah.
And everyone was patiently waiting behind. And anyway, it paid off. But yeah, a lot of discipline to be able to do that, particularly at Phillip Island. So very cool. You said that you've gone to the new shock, so you made some changes to the bike. Is it a new bike as well?
So the bike we're currently running is last year's race bike. So there is a new model R1 that's come out. It's got the different aero on it with the wings. I don't actually know if there's any more update to it apart from the aero. I think that's the main difference. We don't have that just yet. That should be arriving hopefully in the next few weeks. So I don't actually know yet whether it'll be ready for the next round at Sydney at the end of March. Fingers crossed it is ready. But yeah, so at the moment it's the same bike we rode last year. And like I said, it's just an update to the rear shock that's become available. So that's the only real difference. Otherwise, everything's pretty much the same, really. Yeah. Yep.
So if you've got to make a shift to, if they do bring in this new bike with the aero, are you going to have enough testing time on that bike to?
Yeah, that's going to be something that I haven't really thought about it too much as such. Like, I guess that's the team, that's their department. They'll take care of that. But yeah, the way the testing, we have a testing ban, which is basically 3 weeks before the race event, so 21 days. We're not allowed to test at the circuit we're going to race at. So we're going to Sydney Motorsport Park next. 21 days before that, we can't test at it. So yeah, essentially, if we got the new bike and it was ready and it was running, we wouldn't be able to go to Sydney and test it. We might be able to go somewhere else and have a ride on it, but and see if it's going to be any good. Like I said, it might even be too close to the round by the time they get them prepped and sorted out. I don't actually know yet whether that'll be the case. We might have to wait till the one after. So
yeah, right.
But the good thing is that this bike that we have, the last year's bike, we've been essentially running that same bike since 2022. I think it's been more or less the same. So and it's been fast and competitive and everything like that. So we don't have any issue there, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's just that any updates that you do get, like I said, like in the races, the race was made up between second and third place for a difference of less than a tenth of a second. So, we're always looking now for marginal gain. So if there is a small error update that gives you, a tenth or two over the course of a lap, that can make a big difference at the end of the race, So, yeah, we just have to wait and see. It's a little bit still unknown, so we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. So the end results now, progressive championship points. We've got Josh Waters on 76 in first. You're second on 58. You got Ant West is just a smidgen behind on 56, so he's going to be chasing you. Maxi Stauffer on 43 and fourth. John Littris on 40 and fifth. and then it goes down. Brock Pearson, 7th. If you run down the list there, you'll see right down to 24th. There's a fair spread right down to 1 point. But yeah, Josh is looking pretty solid, particularly after, Phillip Island. But I got a feeling that the Yamahas are going to be sniffing pretty close, because the first 1, 2, 3, 4 of the first 6, actually, just go to the top 10. 7 of the top 10 are Yamahas. In fact, Yamaha dominate the field. 7 of the top 10 are Yamahas. The other 3 are Ducatis. So Yamaha are doing good as a model as well, brand.
Yeah, well, I think like just part of that is the support that Yamaha offer for racing in general. Like, I mean, in most of the championships, Yamaha's a supporter of it, or as a sponsor, or they contribute, significantly to the sport across all disciplines. But yeah, specifically in racing, and then you see in Superbike, there's so many people riding the bike because they can get some help. You know what I mean? Obviously, it's expensive to go racing, so they can get some help on discount on parts, or trackside support. They have YRD support at the track as well. So it's a great brand to be a part of, to go racing with. Yamaha Racing's what they do, so they're making a big effort to keep everyone going, especially in road racing and Superbike.
I remember because we had the opportunity to ride the R1 when the new R1 came out with the electronics. I always remember taking it for a ride because it had the modes, I think, were A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
Nobody had a clue what A, B, C, D meant, right? So it was not very intuitive. And I took it for a ride, and it was in whatever mode they had it in, because I didn't know how to change it, or and because they couldn't tell me what each one meant. So the one I went out in was the race mode. Oh my God, that thing was brutal off the throttle. Like, that was awesome, but the wheels stood like you wouldn't believe. But I remember them talking about it because they said they could sell the bike to you, and then you can get the racing support through, I think you called it YRD, Yamaha Racing Development or something.
Yeah.
So that system is still there with the Yamaha brand.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so Yamaha turn up with 2 trucks. One truck's for the official race team, and then the other truck is full of parts and everything to support. They have all the support there for all the different categories, also sizes of bikes. The R3, the R6, and the R1. So yeah, that's available to people who are going racing, and I think even from at a dealer level as well, like people can get deals through their dealer. Know some of the riders work a bit closely with some of their dealers too. So yeah, but yes, the YRD support is still at the track. It's still available. So
Well, I remember the dealership talking about it. You just buy a package. He said you buy the R3, and then you buy the racing package that brings, a different set of springs and, an exhaust and whatever, that comes out. And they do that for all of those racing models. Well, it used to be R6 back then. So it's a very
yeah,
cool concept, because I don't think anyone else does it that I'm aware of.
no, I don't think
Right.
so either. Like that's why you see that again. That's why you see so many riders, riding Yamaha across all the fields. You know what I mean? It's a lot of Yamaha, a lot of Yamaha riders in the field. So, yeah, it's like, again, it's just you're always looking for help, and Yamaha do it. So yeah, big effort.
Okay, next round. How long away is that? That's
About 4 weeks maybe.
yeah. The what's your thoughts about the next round? Where's the next round? I'm just trying to.
We're in Sydney on the 28th and 29th of March, with the night races are on the 29th.
Right. So you're in
So
Sydney on the next round. What's your thoughts about that one?
yeah, it's gonna be tight. I feel like it's a bit more, say, 50-50 between Waters and I there. He's been stronger than me very, very marginally over the last couple of times we've been there, last couple of years we've been there. But like I said, I feel like I know where the difference is and what I need to do to make it up. So I feel like I'm going to go there mentally, thinking that I can challenge for the race win, but it's going to be close. It's going to be really difficult. It's going to be tight. But yeah, it's a circuit that suits the Yamaha well. Like, the chassis of the Yamaha is so good, so we can actually utilize it quite well there. Like, there's just so many tight sort of twisty switchback type turns, through that whole track. Obviously, it's got the long, main straight on it and the fast turn one, but which the Duke seems to go quite well, in that part. But yeah, like I said, the rest of the track where we got a really good bike for it. So, and I like riding it. I like riding there at Sydney. It's a good event. It's good because it's under lights. They do the night races there. It's just a bit of fun, something different. It's a two-day event. So yeah, we do the first, a lot of practices and qualifying on Friday, and then we get into the racing on Saturday afternoon and evening. So yeah, it's gonna be tight. It's gonna be close, I think. It's going to be interesting, but I think it'll be some good racing. So yeah, I am really looking forward to it. Like I said to you, like from a championship point of view, I really think that this round will, make a big difference to the championship because let's say like being 18 points behind at the moment, let's say I come away from the next round with 2 wins and and Waters has 2 seconds. Well, then I claw back 10 points. Yeah. So it brings it back down to 8 points. So that's sort of the goal there to try and, that you can just get big chunks of points back when you're winning, So, yeah. But let's say it goes the other way and he wins both races there. And let's say I had a second place in both of them. So he gets another 10 points up on me. So go from 18 out to 28. So that's when it starts getting difficult, when the points go out, past 20 points and you get pretty tricky. But, like I said, I feel like that one's a bit more of a 50-50 chance there of winning. Yeah, they just can't. The strength of the Ducati you can't utilize all of it enough to get away, right? Like we can keep up there and hang in there. So I just need to make sure I turn up and switched on and do a good job, right?
Well, that's round 2, Sydney Motorsport Park, 28th and 29th of March. And then you've got round 3, May the 2nd at Queensland Raceway. Round 4, June 13th, 15th at Morgan Park. And then back to Queensland Raceway, August 8th and 10th for round 5. So you've got that 3 rounds following, which is kind of like your backyard. So that's definitely going to help and it'll play to your strengths, that one, for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
And then you're going to wrap it up very similar to what happened last year. Phillip Island, 1 raceway, and then the Bend. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. What do you do now in preparation for that next event? Is there anything special you got organised?
Nothing special as such. Like I'll just keep trying to ride as much as I can. So like I'll be back at the track again tomorrow, actually, Queensland Raceway, having a ride there. So just seat time, keeping an eye in. Yeah, just generally fitness training, a lot of cycling, bit of gym work, just trying to keep fit. Sydney's a challenging track from a fitness point of view. Like I said, the nature of there's just so many turns there that are, let's say, sort of tight-ish, and they're a lot of sort of switchback type turns there. So, the rate and again that particular race will be very much like 100% effort from start to finish. There won't be, I don't think there'll be so much in the way of strategy as such where you can sort of like, maybe ride at 90% for a bit and then sort of get into it towards the end. It'll just be full gas from the start. So it's a sprint race. So I just need to make sure I'm fit and good for 20 minutes flat out. Two of them.
I got to ask you, did you see that video of Pedro Acosta where he showed his hands and he had blisters on his hands after the race?
No, I haven't seen that one. No, I didn't.
It's ridiculous. Like he says something like, and people say I wasn't trying hard, or it was a comment like that. But he had blisters on his hands from riding, what is it, 26 laps or something on a Moto GP bike. It might have been at Qatar or something. But oh my God, fathers, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, I mean that. It's a hard one, because I've always learned to ride in a way that I try to be very, very light on the bars and put a certain amount of pressure in there, like no unnecessary pressure in the bars, and try to attach myself well with the lower half of my body and that type of thing. But you see those guys, like that's a different beast again. Those bikes, you know what I mean, and that many laps too, So I have seen that I've seen some riders here in ASBK actually use as a type of a soft padding almost that sort of goes around like
Yeah.
around your fingers, and then
Marquez,
it's
Marquez.
yeah, yeah, in your palm. Yeah, so that's supposed to help stop so much with the blisters and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Marquez uses something like that.
yeah, right, okay, yeah,
A bunch of other guys stick something on their nose, but if you see, that's the weirdest thing. But Marquez definitely put something on his hands,
yeah, yeah.
just like you described there.
Well, they used to. I know they were used to do seeing riders in GP. They used to tape them up. They used to use like a strapping type tape, and tape them right up to try and stop blisters. But
Mm. I think
yeah,
I think that I think that's for the fight in the sand pit trap. If
just in case.
you're going to punch your helmet, you need to have padding.
I'd like to know. I'd be interested to know, like, let's say from a technique point of view, say with Pedro, you see him while he's getting a lot of blisters, which means he has to be, hanging in the bars quite a lot, using his hands quite a lot, using his arms. I'd like to know, let's say maybe Pecco Bagnaia or maybe say like Jorge Lorenzo, like some of those guys, because they, to me, from a riding point of view, seem very relaxed in the upper body and more attached to the legs. I'd be interested to know if they still had the same the same thing where they were getting a lot of blisters and stuff in their hands, or if it's completely just a technique thing, or if it's completely just like that's just what happens when you ride those bikes for so long. It'd be
Well,
interesting.
we get a couple of photos we show at the school in the classroom. One is Pecco Bagnaia and his lock on with his
Mm.
legs. Right, it's really obvious, right, when
Yeah.
he's breaking into the corner. And then we get a second photo that is of Jorge Lorenzo. You mentioned both those guys, and it's a photo of him mid corner, and he's basically got his fingers open,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
that's what I
very
mean.
soft
Yeah.
on bars.
Yeah.
So I think there's something in what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah, and that's where it just would like to know, like, yeah, yeah, Pedro's getting the blisters on his hands, and you're trying really hard, but is it not just like a unnecessary? Not, it's hard to be able to say that because these guys are the top of the game, right? Like they're not doing it for no reason. But like in my mind, I'm kind of thinking theoretically, like is it unnecessary to be using so much force there?
Through
You
the
know,
hands. Yeah.
yeah, through the hands. And is there?
Indicate, yeah, again, it's us assessing the fastest riders in the world.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
At the end of the day, does it mean that there's a weakness in the lock on, or he just
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
put tension on it or something?
yeah,
You
yeah,
can
yeah,
ride like that, as long as you're not steering the bike.
yeah, 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 yeah. Right, right. Yeah, true. Yeah,
Interesting.
Be interesting to know.
Yeah, I'll ask him.
Yeah, you'll have to get Pecco Bagnaia on your podcast and get him to show you his hands.
I got to tell you, if he, I did try and get Jack Miller on the podcast, and they just ignore me. Uh,
Stuck with me.
yeah, that's good.